Shalom, family.
Shalom.
All right, welcome to another new moon, new month. Tonight's class is actually called New Moon. What we're going to do tonight is actually go back and revisit things that some of us already know and things that we got to consider. We're always gaining new sheep to the fold, may not know and understand why we gather on a new moon, the significance of a new moon. So we're going to revisit the new moon. You know how it is. We go so far and then we have to revisit because you got to keep thinking as new people come along. We just keep going ahead. There's things missing, pieces that they can't put together to understand why we do what we do. If you have looked in the night sky, you may have noticed the moon appears to change shape each night. Some nights, the moon might look like a narrow crescent. Other nights, the moon might look like a bright circle. And on other nights, you might not be able to see the moon at all. The different shapes of the moon that we see at different times of the month are called the moon phases. As we can see on the screen here, we got a rotation. And as you watch that rotation, you can see we just went through a full moon. And this is what we need to be paying attention. As we're paying attention to the moon phases, there's a new moon, nothing seen. We're coming back out. If we're keeping a track of those things, we can keep track of Yahweh's times, Yahweh's days, just by watching the moon phases, which is what our ancestors did, which is what we have gotten away from. But time is coming that we're going to still have to understand those things. All right? Why does this happen? The shape of the moon isn't changing throughout the month. However, our view of the moon does change. The moon does not produce its own light. There's only one source of light in our solar system, and that is the sun. Without the sun, our moon would be completely dark. What you may have heard referred to as moonlight is actually just sunlight reflecting off of the moon's surface. So what we've seen there now is sunlight. The sunlight comes from one direction, and it always illuminates. Lights up, one half of the moon, the side of the moon that is facing the sun. The other side of the moon is dark. On Earth, our view of the illuminated part of the moon changes each night, depending on where the moon is in its orbit or path around Earth. When we have a full view of the completely illuminated side of the moon, that phase is known as a full moon. But following the night of each full moon, as the moon orbits around Earth, we start to see less of the moon lit by the sun. Eventually, the moon reaches a point in its orbit when we do not see any of the moon illuminated. At that point, the far side of the moon is facing the sun. This phase is called a new moon. During the new moon, the side facing Earth is dark. So that kills that theory about the sliver. Next graphic. The 8 moon phases is what we see here. The new moon, we cannot see the moon when it is a new moon. Waxing crescent, which is what a lot of people get caught up into, the sliver. In the northern hemisphere, we see the waxing crescent phase as a thin crescent of light on the right. The first quarter, we see the first quarter phase as a half moon. Waxing gibbous, the waxing gibbous phase is between a half moon and full moon. Waxing means it is getting bigger. Full, we can see the moon completely illuminated during full moons. So this also kills this whole thing about the new moon is the full moon. How can the new moon be the full moon? How can it be both? But there are people out there that are now on this theory that the new moon is the full moon. Waning Gibbous. The waning gibbous phase is between a half moon and full moon. Waning means it is getting smaller. Third quarter. We see the third quarter moon as a half moon. 2. It is the opposite half as the illuminated in the first quarter moon. Waning crescent. In the northern hemisphere, we see the waning crescent phase as a thin crescent of light on the left. The moon displays these 8 phases, one after the other, as it moves through its cycle each month. It takes 27 days for the moon to orbit the earth. That means the moon's cycle is 27 days long. Let's go to the next graphic, please. Now, as we look here, when I saw this, don't start it yet. When I saw this, we see where it says 0 days, 0 hours. And the first thing came to my mind, is this where those illuminaries are getting this 0 day that they're trying to miss? Because we heard about people who follow this moon Sabbath, and then they say there's a day that you don't count. So as this dawned on me, I'm like, is this what they running off at? But anyway, go ahead and start it. Now, you see, we see the sun, right? So now what we've got is the Earth doing its orbit, and then we've got the moon orbiting around the Earth, and we see the sun off to the left. But look at how the moon and the sun are getting further and further away as it's going through the cycle. So as it's getting further and further away, we can see how that can also affect our seasons. And as we're watching, you can see the shape and the size of the moon also changing. See, that moon is getting bigger and bigger. But it started off dark. We couldn't see it when this first started. All we saw was just the sun there. And then as we saw the crescent, we saw how close it was to the sun. Now, if you watch it, you see that that moon is also, its position as we're looking at the bottom, is getting further and further away from the sun. And now the earth is eventually going to be between it and the sun. We've gone over these many times, but as you get these graphics that kind of you can look and see what's actually going on, look at the distance now, how far away that moon is before it even comes up on the scene. So now at that point, it's in between. We're in our full moon phase. All right, that's good. I just leave it, let it keep going. You can play it. At any point in time, half of the moon is lit, illuminated by the sun, and half is not lit. However, for a viewer on Earth at any given time, the moon may appear to be of the moon. Where is that at? What happened? All right, something got cut off here. Anyway. It takes 29.5 days for the moon to cycle through all of its phases and return to the same starting point. Our current calendar system used this fact to establish months of about 30 days. The moon takes about 27.3 days to orbit, revolve once around the Earth. It takes the same amount of time, 27.3 days, for the moon to spin, rotate once around its axis. This means that the one side of the moon, known as the near side, is always facing Earth, and the other far side is always facing away from the Earth. The reason that the rotation and revolution periods of the moon are different from the time it takes to complete one cycle of moon phase is that the Earth is also orbiting around the sun. And the moon thus has to revolve more than 360 degrees around the Earth for the sun. Earth and moon to all align again at the same starting point. The direction of the moon's rotation and revolution is counterclockwise when viewed from above the moon's and Earth's north pole. This is the same direction as the Earth rotates and revolves. During a complete 29.5 day cycle of moon phases, the moon, as seen from Earth, goes from being completely dark, called a new moon, to completely lit, called a full moon, and then back to a completely dark new moon again. During the first half of the cycle, a bit more of the moon facing Earth is lit each night. These are called the waxing or brightening phases of the moon. During the last half of the cycle, a bit less of the moon facing earth is lit each night. These are called the waning or darkening phases of the moon. Each phase of the moon has been given a name. When less than a quarter of the moon facing earth is lit, it is called a crescent moon. When about half of the moon facing earth is lit, it is called a quarter moon. When about 3/4 of the moon facing earth is lit, it is called a gibbous moon. So let's go to Genesis chapter 1, and we're going to read verses 1 through 19. Genesis chapter 1, and we're going to begin at verse 1. Yep, in the beginning, right there.
Oh, okay. That's all right. In the beginning, Elohim created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the spirit of Elohim moved upon the face of the waters.
So the first thing we hear is the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. So the first thing that was there was darkness. The earth began in darkness. So why is it such a big deal that we can't understand that the months would begin in darkness? Our lives began in darkness. We were in the womb in darkness. The growing of a seed into a plant begins in darkness. So why is it so far-fetched that there is no light in a new moon? That people are gravitating or grabbing onto this concept that the crescent moon is the beginning of the new moon. The beginning of this creation, the beginning of this earth was in darkness. So it's only fair to keep everything beginning in darkness. Go ahead.
Verse 3. And Elohim said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And Elohim saw the light, and that it was good. And Elohim divided the light from the darkness.
So understand, this is light. This is not the sun or the moon. This is just light. Go ahead.
And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the even and the morning were the first day. And Elohim said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And Elohim made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And Elohim called the firmament heaven, and the even and the morning were the second day. And Elohim said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And Elohim called the dry land earth, and gathered together the waters called he seas. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, and herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth." And it was so. And the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind. And Elohim saw that it was good.
So look at this point right now of how much emphasis is placed on sunlight for trees and grass and all this. There's no sunlight at this point. But yet we got fruit trees and we got grass. Go ahead.
Verse 13. And the even and the morning were the third day. And Elohim said, "Let there be light in the firmament of the heaven, to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth." And it was so.
So back to what I was saying in the beginning, if we pay attention to these lights that Elohim created, then we can keep up with our holy days. We can keep up with what time of the month we're in. If you see a full moon, how many days into the month are you? Anyone? Okay. So it shouldn't be a surprise for you to say, okay, it's a full moon. All right, we got about 14 more days before new moon class. A lot of us is catching up on us. Somebody mentioned it, it's new moon already? Done snuck up on me. That means we're not paying attention to the night skies. But look what it was for. It was for signs and for seasons and for days and years. So before all these fancy gadgets that we have, this is what our forefathers had to rely on. Go ahead.
Verse 16. And Elohim made 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And Elohim set them in the firmament of the heaven, to give light upon the earth.
Now, even in verse 16, right, he says, 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. Do we understand that the lesser light does not exist without the greater light? Because remember, the lesser light is actually a reflection coming from the greater light. So if you've got a completely lunar calendar, you're in problems because they both rely off each other. Go ahead.
And to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And the even and the morning were the 4th day.
So creation went on with no artificial light until the 4th day. If we look at the phases that we just went through, the moon phases, if you look at those, most of them will last almost 3 days. So here it is, the 4th day, when the light, those artificial lights are being created. So it goes right along with the creation. Let's go to Yohanan chapter 1.
Brother, can we go to, before you go there, look at verse 9.
Okay.
Brother Eli, can you read verse 9 again?
Give me a second. Verse 9. And Elohim said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear, and it was so.
That's a statement about baptism. The earth was born out of water. You don't even catch that right away.
Mm-hmm.
The earth was born out of water. It was the water first, and then the land appeared out of that, which means the water then subsided. The water then subsided, and then you have this whole situation of baptism, this whole being born again out of water. We're just doing the same thing that the earth was
Right.
happening on earth.
So we can see that there's nothing new under the sun. It's the same cycle. We started in darkness. Every month starts in darkness. All life starts in darkness. Like he's saying, the earth came up out of the water. But then you got people telling us that water baptism isn't necessary.
Right.
When everything has been baptized. The earth got a baptism when Yahweh was ticked off with everybody, with all life. He washed it clean. One man and his 3 sons. Even coming out of Egypt, we walked through a wall of water. Go ahead, Yohanan chapter 1, and we're going to start at verse 1. John chapter 1, and we're going to start at verse 1.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim.
Now, here's the situation, even with just starting this off. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. We still have this thing where people believe that Yahweh is the man doing everything himself. People can't grasp that other entities are there. Right here, there was somebody already with him in the beginning. In the creation, it said, let us make man. He wasn't there by himself. People have this thing of thinking that Yahweh did everything himself. I got to deal directly with Yahweh from the beginning. Even the creation of this earth was not Yahweh. He was there. Go ahead.
Make sure they turn it on. You got that? Okay. Really, what it is a statement of arrogance. The in the beginning, we so arrogant. We think that's the beginning. That's your beginning.
Right.
Your beginning ain't his beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But see, that's the arrogance of the self that takes over. That if it's the beginning, it's got to be connected to me.
Right.
No. No, that doesn't mean when your creator began. That's when you began. You don't get to hear his story. You wouldn't even be able to comprehend it if he told it to you anyway. But our arrogance puts us in the same field of view as he is. You just went through this whole thing about new moon. You realize from his position it don't look like that, right?
Oh yeah.
He not standing where we standing. So the new moon ain't for him. It's for us. It don't look that way when you standing in the back.
Right.
It only looks that way for the people who's standing on the earth. It wasn't for him. It's for us. But we try to put ourselves in the same place as the creator. We want to know his thoughts, his thing. How the hell you going to know Yahweh's thoughts?
Man, you know what's interesting about that? You want to know Yahweh's thoughts. Man, you barely know the thoughts and feelings of the person laying in your bosom.
Right.
So how you want to know his thoughts and feelings? Like you say, that's some real arrogancy.
Yeah.
You might, I mean, honestly, as men, remember your days of dating before you got, you took the woman out and you wonder, I wonder if she's having a good time. Is she really enjoying this meal? We can't even figure that out. But you want to know the thoughts, the feelings of the man who created everything? The only thing he did was tell us what is pleasing unto him for us. Now, on our level, it's one thing. But the angels can't do what we do and it be pleasing unto him.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the Gentiles don't have to do what we do and it be pleasing unto him. So how will we ever know his thoughts? When from one person to another, different requirements are there. Stop trying to put him in a box. Yahweh, I am that I am. I can be anything I need to be. Go ahead.
Verse 2. The same was in the beginning with Elohim. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made.
So, the word was in the beginning with Elohim. Right? All things was made by him. And without him was not anything made that was made. Who is him? This him is there with Elohim. It didn't say Elohim made these things, but it does let you know that the word was an El. He also is an El. And then when we go into it further, people can't understand Israel being on the scene back then. What does it say? I gave you my name. Priest Esaac has said it many times. Are we called Yahwehites? We're called Israelites. So then that should be a clue to figure out who is Israel. He said, I gave you my name. Okay, so if we call Israel and you gave me your name, then who are you? See, we so hell-bent on we know the name of Yahweh. Just all about Yahweh. But even in that, when you go through the scriptures, the Son is always giving his Father credit for everything. The Son has always told you that I'm not here to do my will. I'm here to do his will. Go ahead.
You know what also backs that whole thing up about trying to understand Yahweh and try to understand his thoughts? The word says, do you think I eat the flesh of bulls and drink the blood of goats and whatever? I'm paraphrasing here.
Mm-hmm.
He says, if I was hungry, I wouldn't tell you. So you have to be in a serious, arrogant state of mind to believe that you're going to understand Yahweh. Like you're going to have his thoughts. He said, I wouldn't tell you. And what would you do if I told you? If he said, yeah, man, I'm finna go over, I'm thirsty, I'm finna go drink the Milky Way. What you gonna do?
Go ahead.
Verse 4. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended not.
So now let's remember back in Genesis. There was light before the artificial lights was created. If you look at the graphic up there, you don't see a sun or a moon, but there's lights in the sky. It was the fourth day before the sun, the moon, and the stars were created, but there was already a light. And when you think about it, even when we get into Revelations, I think we're going to get into we'll wait till we get there. But it says darkness comprehended it not. And that's the phase that we're going through now. We just think about the physical darkness. Let's think about the darkness that's in people. So when you're trying to talk to them and they don't understand or they're coming at you, it says the darkness comprehended it not. What is that? The light. So when you so let your light shine amongst men, don't be confused when they don't understand. You got something over there, my brother?
Nah, this morning, man, I heard Creflo. He was preaching on this same scripture right here, and even Genesis. And he was saying that light, was an angel. And the same way Yahweh talked to the angel is the same way Yahweh talked to us. And we need to learn how to listen when he's talking to us. And he was giving all the story telling me he was supposed to go on a trip to Africa. And then he heard Yahweh say, don't go. And then he got a phone call and some man said to him, don't go to that trip. But it was just funny how he used it out of context. But I peeped what he was doing, how he flipped it. He could have, if he went in depth, he could have revealed unto the people what this really is about. Because he did say in the beginning, it said, let us.
Mm-hmm.
But he just referred to that other person that just one of that, just the regular angel.
And I'm sure he didn't say Yahweh taught him. I'm sure he said the Lord.
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
That's what he said. My bad.
Right. He also get to talking and
Yep.
Right.
All right, go ahead, my brother.
All right. Verse 6. There was a man sent from Elohim whose name was Yohanan. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe.
So Yohanan was sent to bear witness of the light. Here we got this light from the beginning. There's this light. And we still have this light being spoken about. But who did Yohanan bear witness of? Go ahead.
He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not.
So we know, as far as we read, we don't hear nowhere where Yahweh was in the world that man knew of Yahweh. So from the beginning, we got a reference of the light. Going down through the ages, we've got a reference of the light. The light was there before the sun, the moon, and the stars was created. Yohanan is giving witness of this light. This light was among men. He made these things. But man didn't understand what was amongst them. Let's go to Revelations chapter 21. So to say that we want to understand Yahweh's light, Yahweh's ways, here it is. The creator of all things is amongst men, and man couldn't even comprehend what was in the midst of them. Revelations chapter 21, and we're going to read verse 1 and 2 to begin.
And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea.
Now, it's interesting that Priest Esaac went back to where we were talking about the earth came up out of the sea. But look what happens towards the end. There's no more sea. Yeah, I felt that way when I grasped them. What? No more sea? Go ahead.
And I, Yohanan, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from Elohim, out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband.
All right, let's jump to verse 23. It's all right. He's a kid.
Yeah, man, he sleep like he did a double shift. I thought I worked hard. Apparently, I'm not working. Leave him alone. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? He get it from down under. He go from all the way.
Verse 23. And the city had no need of sun, neither the moon, to shine in it, for the glory of Elohim did lighten it, and the Lamb is the light thereof.
So right back to what was in the beginning. The light was there. The darkness was first, then came the light. And then these artificial lights were created. Now you got in this new kingdom, there's no need for the sun or the moon. So our dependency on the artificial light has to go away at some point, and we have to learn to depend on the true light. Go ahead.
And the nations of them which were saved shall walk in the light of it, and the kings of the earth do bring their glory and honor into it.
So for those who can only grasp onto Yahweh being their all and their everything, how are you going to function when the Lamb is the light? And you got to walk in his light. Yahweh got business he needs to take care of and deal with up in heaven. You think we try and do two things at one time, multitasking? And they say most time when anybody who multitasks, something's getting messed up. They say there's only a few people who can truly multitask. Why do I need to multitask when I got a corporation and people to do stuff? That was the problem with Lucifer. He was given a job, but he decided he wanted to mess the job up. Then you get replaced. I don't need to come down there and watch and see everything y'all doing. Just like the question was asked Lucifer, where you been? At the end of the day, when they say the books are going to be open, well, we think that Yahweh's sitting here right now and everything we do? Everybody got their own angel that's right now your every move. Then you come back and report. Go ahead.
When you look at this and it's talking about this New Jerusalem coming down. When you talk about the earth being born out of water, the first one came up. Mm-hmm. This one is going to come down.
Mm-hmm. And like we just read, there was no sea. Because if it's coming down with a whole lot of water, then
we got some problems.
Go ahead.
And the gates of it shall not be shut at all by day, for there shall be no night there. Is that it?
Yeah. All right. Next graphic. New moons are generally completely invisible without special equipment and a lot of moon photography experience. Some people use the term new moon for a thin crescent moon visible in the west after sunset. You always see these little crescents which set shortly after the sun, a day or two after each month's new moon. Astronomers don't call these little crescent moons new moons. However, in the language of astronomy, this slim crescent is called a young moon. New moons and young moons are fascinating to many. The Farmer's Almanac, for example, still offers information on gardening by the moon, and many cultures have holidays based on moon phases. As the moon orbits Earth, it changes phases in an orderly way. And that's another thing people have a problem with. Order. Order. Yahweh's creation has order. Bottom line, new moon occurs when the moon is on the same side of Earth as the sun. New moons generally can't be seen. They cross the sky with the sun during the day, and the moon's shadow side is pointed toward Earth. A new moon is visible only during a solar eclipse, which would be the one on your far right. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 66. And the only thing we can concern ourselves is what we need to do that is going to be pleasing unto Yahweh. And stop trying to figure out how he think, feel, and believe. And part of what's pleasing unto him is keeping these days that he set apart. Verse 22 and 23, please.
All right. Isaiah 66, verse 22 through 23.
Yes.
For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith Yahweh, so shall your seed and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith Yahweh.
So, after the new heavens and the new earth, the new moon observation didn't go anywhere. That's why we're here this evening, observing the new moon, as is commanded by Yahweh our Elohim. What they say, practice makes perfect. So when the new earth and the new heaven is there, there shouldn't be anything new to us. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 46. Ezekiel chapter 46, and we're going to read verses 1 through 3.
Thus saith Yahweh Elohim, the gate of the inner court that looketh towards the east shall be shut the 6 working days, but on the Sabbath it shall be opened, and in the day of the new moon it shall be opened. And the prince shall enter by the way of the porch of that gate without, and shall stand by the post of the gate, and the priest shall prepare his burnt offering and his peace offering, and he shall worship at the threshold of the gate. Then he shall go forth, but the gate shall not be shut until the even. Likewise, the people of the land shall worship at the door of this gate before Yahweh in the Sabbath and in the new moons.
So, when you go to the east gate, it should only be open when? Okay. So, this is in the new kingdom. And we're still dealing with the new moon. So just so if you're new, you don't think that we just decide to get together tonight just to get together. This is what's been ordained, now and forever. Even after the passing of this earth and the new heaven and the new earth has been established, this is still commanded. This is still being observed. Let's go to Colossians chapter 2.
Colossians chapter 2, verses 16 through 18. Let no man therefore judge you in meat, or in drink, or in respect of the holy day, or in of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days, which are a shadow of things to come, but is of the body of Christ. Let no man beguile you, or your reward in a voluntary humility and worship of angels, intruding into those things which he hath not seen, vainly puffed up by his fleshly mind.
So here we go again. If you're not observing it now, it's not going anywhere. This is always going to be there. So for those who might not understand now, you get a little pass. But he's saying that, hey, this is a set shadow of things to come. So for those of us who are already doing it, we're already prepared for what is to come. What they say, you're going to play how you practice. There's a lot of people, Hebrews, who don't see the significance of the new moon. It's just another event. They reverence the Sabbath and see no reverencing of a new moon. And then you go ask the average Jewish about a new moon, they have no clue what you're talking about. And definitely don't want to ask a Christian. So at the end of the day, with all these little holidays and get-togethers that they have, if we look at all the gatherings that we have, that Yahweh's commanded for us to get together, it outweighs and surpasses anything that they have. Just our new moons alone, which is once a month, outweighs all their little holidays that they got going on. These are commanded gatherings for us to get together. So once you want to look and say, oh, Hebrew Israelite, that life is strict and it's boring, it's because you can't see the glory in it. Because you don't understand what it means to have holy convocations. You don't understand the culture that we're walking in. If we just stop and look at all the times we get together, it also allows us what to do? An opportunity to get to know one another. Most of their get-togethers, it's so many doggone people that they don't know each other. The preacher don't even know a quarter of the people that shows up. So this is our opportunity to continue to build and grow as a family with all of these get-togethers and understand one another's ways and learn to understand what's pleasing unto Yahweh instead of worrying about how he thinks, feels, and believes. There's points and times that it should get to a point that I should be able to look at one of y'all brothers or sisters and be like, I see you going through something right now. I think you need to go in that sanctuary and hit your knees. And vice versa. Hey, sometimes we be toiling through stuff and you don't think nobody see, but hey man, that's what family is for. We should be able to look and say, hey man, what you got going on? What you mean? Bro, I see something riding you. These opportunities are what we need to take to understand each other's ways. These opportunities are what we need to take to help build and correct one another. Let's go to Psalms 81. And for those of us that's close here to the sanctuary, believe me, you don't understand the opportunity that you have that many of our brothers and sisters wish they had. That's why, hey, when people come to town, and if they want to stay till 1 o'clock in the morning, I don't care. That's their one opportunity and they're trying to soak it all in. But then you got people right around the corner who come when they feel like, help out when they feel like, show up when they feel like. Not knowing that there's somebody watching on YouTube who wish they could be in the midst of this. Or listening on the phone line wishing they could be here in the midst of everything. Go ahead.
Psalms 81. Sing aloud unto Elohim our strength. Make a joyful noise unto Elohim of Jacob. Take a psalm and bring hither the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the psaltery. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed of our solemn feast day.
Now, take a psalm and bring hither the timbrel, the pleasant harp with the psaltery, blow up the trumpet. That sounds like a party to me. Okay, go ahead.
For this was a statute for Israel, and a law of the Elohim of Jacob.
So you want to understand, Yahweh, this is one of the statutes given to Israel. Go ahead.
This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony, when he went out through the land of Egypt, when I heard the language that I understood not. I removed his shoulder from the burden. His hands were delivered from the pots. Thou callest in trouble, and I deliver thee. I answer thee in the secret place of thunder. I provide thee at the waters of Meribah and Selah. I proved you. Hear, O my people, and I will testify unto thee. O Israel, if thou wilt hearken unto me, there shall no strange God be in thee, neither shalt thou worship any strange God. I am Yahweh thy Elohim, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Open thy mouth wide, and I will fill it.
So, verse 8, hear, O my people, and I will testify unto you, O Israel, if you will hearken unto me. Not if you will understand how I think, feel, and believe. If you will hearken unto me, if you will listen to me, if you will obey me. Go ahead.
Verse 11. But my people would not hearken to my voice, and Israel would none of me. So I gave them up unto their own hearts, lust, and they walked in their own counsels.
And that's part of that lust in your heart, wanting to be in his stead. If you know how he thinks, feels, and believes, that means you're trying to be him. Just do what you're told. Go ahead, Priest Esaac.
You know, one of those things that you just read is when it says just, hearken unto me. When you talk about trying to understand. So if you are a parent and the child don't understand what you're saying, does the child now have the right to not follow you because it don't understand it?
That beat down might get worse.
There it is.
Go ahead.
Verse 13. Oh, that my people have hearkened unto me, and Israel had walked in my ways. I should soon have subdued their enemies and turned my hand against their adversaries.
So when you hear, listen to verse 13. Oh, that my people had hearkened unto me. That's sorrow. That is sorrow. Man, I wish y'all would have just listened to me. And who's to say part of the fact that we ain't listening is not, I know I'm going to have to take this other thing out. Which is my son having to be offered up. That's disappointment we're hearing. As parents in the room, we've all been there. Man, didn't you hear what I told you? Why didn't you just do what I told you, man? Now you wouldn't be in this situation. Go ahead.
Verse 15. The haters of Yahweh should have submitted themselves unto him, but their time should have endured forever. He should have fed them also with the finest of wheat, and with honey out of the rock should I have satisfied thee.
So he said the haters of Yahweh should have submitted themselves unto him. This is the children of Israel he's talking about. Oh man, if y'all would have just listened to me. Well, because you hate me, you ain't gonna say you hate me, but if you're not doing what I said to do, then you hate me. If you hate my ways, you hate me. A lot of times it takes a stranger to see even your own positives in you that your own child won't see. What Yahweh said about us, you're my sons and daughters, right? Our own children will despise our correction, and a stranger will take that correction and run with it. My son recently told me about a situation. He said, man, his friend said to him, man, your dad be knowing stuff. I said, what? Where did that come from? Some years ago, we went out as a congregation. We went to one farm and was leaving from that farm to go to another farm. My son was there, and he asked if his friend could come along. His friend came along. Some other young children in their own vehicle decided they were going to depart to go to the next destination before we were all ready to go. I stood there and I looked and I said, we all drove over here together as a group. What's the haste that these two are ready to just go off on their own instead of waiting for the rest of us to go? My son said to me, can we ride with him? I said, no. By the time we got to the next farm, there's a phone call. Oh man, that car's been in an accident. His buddy looked at him and said, man, how your daddy be knowing stuff? My son didn't catch that, but his friend did. I'm sure in his mind, my daddy mean. But it took the other person to catch and say, man, how your daddy be knowing stuff? What you talking about? Man, we were supposed to be in that car. Go ahead, my brother. This is the last verse. We're going to go to 1 Samuel chapter 20.
First Samuel,
Yes, sir. 1 Samuel chapter 20.
verse 18.
Yes, sir.
Then Jonathan said to Dawid, tomorrow is the new moon, and thou shalt be missed, because thy seat will be empty. Is that the only part you want me to read on that part?
Yep. And then jump to verse 25, please. So, verse 18. Then Jonathan said to Dawid, tomorrow is the new moon, and you shall be missed because your seat will be empty. Why? Exactly. This is a normal occurrence. But I can honestly tell you from one new moon to the next, we don't know who's going to show up, how many going to show up, who's going to be here. I keep getting the question, how much food should I make? How many people? I don't know how many people are going to be there. I can't tell you. Because nobody really sees the significance. The outturn on the Sabbath is greater than the new moon. But it's a commanded feast. I know we got works and jobs, but yet we still in a space of practice for what is yet to come. Imagine how more peaceful and enjoyable it's going to be when we put in the sacrifices in this land when we get in our own land. Verse 25.
And the king sat upon his seat as at other times, even upon a seat by the wall. And Jonathan arose, and Abner sat by Saul's side. And David's place was empty. Nevertheless, Saul spake not anything that day, for he thought something had befallen him. He is not clean, surely he is not clean. And it came to pass on the morrow, which was the second day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said unto Jonathan his son, Wherefore cometh not the son of Jesse to meet, neither yesterday nor today?
So when you look at new moon, do you see the excuse in his mind? So if you want to think that new moon is just haphazardly some get together, the man said, something have befallen him. He is not clean. Surely he's not clean. So even this gathering is a holy convocation. And we know how foul Saul is. Well, what are he going? Straight to clean and unclean. This man, he out doing the do. He ain't show up because he ain't clean. What is he saying about this man? That could be the only reason why he's not here. Why? I'm used to him being here. I'm used to him following the laws of his Elohim. Go ahead.
Isn't that it?
Okay, and then the second part, and it came to pass on the morrow, which was the second day of the month, that David's place was empty. And Saul said unto Jonathan, his son, Wherefore come not the son of Jesse to meet, neither yesterday nor today? Now, we've got new moon tonight. If somebody was observing new moon tomorrow night, would it be wrong? Because if you look, there's that 2-day space. It's not about getting it pinpoint right. It's about the effort. So we see here there's 2 nights of gathering. But this man expected David to be there both nights. That's all we're going to do for this evening. Enjoy your new moon.